Hello, and welcome to my performance-based project for Models of Teaching, Ed. 513. I will be looking at the teaching framework by Wiggins and McTighe, Understanding by Design, UBD. In the teaching framework developed by Wiggins and McTighe, Understanding by Design, there are three key stages of backwards design. The first being identifying desired accomplishments. This is what the teacher, by the end of the lesson, wants their students to be able to do or be able to perform. This will be measured by content standards, course objectives, or learning outcomes for your school district. The second key is determine acceptable evidence, and this will also be done by the teacher, and the teacher will look at traditional and alternative assessments. Examples include quizzes, tests, prompts, projects, student demonstrations, observations, in writing, conferencing, and logs. Teachers will also give students the opportunity to receive feedback and self-assessment on their learning. The third key to this learning framework is plan learning experiences and instruction. This is done through the activity known as the where to elements. The W asks teachers to think about what is expected and where the students are coming from, or their prior knowledge and interests. The H is what the teacher will do to hook their students' interests. The E is for equipping students to be able to explore. R is to revise the students' thinking. E is to provide students opportunity to evaluate their work and reflect on learning. T is for the teacher to personalize the lesson to the different needs of the students, or to differentiate instruction for all learners. And O is for organize and plan effectively for the lesson. The learning strategies that I will be using in this lesson will be similarities and differences, reinforcing effort in providing recognition, summarizing and note-taking, cooperative learning, and homework and practice. The learning objectives for my lesson will be students will be able to identify parts of a cellular system, and the second is students will be able to see the connection between a town and an animal cell. On this slide, it states the state PA standards that I will be covering in this lesson. The first one being, know that natural and human-made objects are made up of parts. Identify and describe what parts make up a system. The second being, know models as useful simplifications of objects or processes. Identify different types of models. To assess to see if the students have learned these learning objectives, the form of assessments that will be used will be: first, teachers will observe students identifying the different parts of a cell and their functions, and the second, teachers can call on students and have them give examples on the screen of how the town and cell are similar or different. Content knowledge that will be covered: identifying different forms of a cell, labeling, naming the parts of the cell, and comparing the town to a cell. My rationale for this lesson is it is an important skill for students to learn how to identify and label the function of a simple animal cell. At the beginning of this Our Town lesson, we'll first start by going over what we've learned in prior lessons. We'll start by talking about the different living things, and then the students will tell me what they've learned about living things. And second, we'll also compare and talk about the difference between living and non-living things. After our review, we will then begin into our lesson. In this lesson, I will preface and let the students know that we will be doing something a little bit differently than how we usually do our class. I'll let them know that today we will be doing a class activity where we will be developing our own town, and it will be up to them to tell me what is in our town, but they need to remember that they need to tell me why we need these things in our town. The activity will start with the student seeing a blank whiteboard page, and I will give them the directions that students are to raise their hands and participate. Whenever I see hands raised, I will call on one student at a time, and they will tell me what they think should go into our city or town. And then they will give their explanation of why this should be in our city or town. Reinforcement will be given to these students through a virtual high five. Once we have what we feel to be a full, complete town, we will then talk about each part and how it helps the town. While students are giving their responses to how each part helps a town, the teacher will write this information onto the whiteboard. And this whiteboard will be saved and then sent to the students as a resource for them to go back to and look at later. Once students have saved the digital file that was sent to them, we'll then go on and have the students open their book to the chapter on animal cells. Once they do that, I'll have them page through and let me know if they see anything similar to what we had just covered with our town that we've created. I will then ask students to raise their hand if they see any similarities through the activity that we just did. And once a student says they see the similarity between the town that we've just created and the animal cell, we'll then start looking at the animal cell and what makes up the animal cell and the different functions of that animal cell. While students tell me the similarities and differences, we will record this using a Venn diagram. So on one side we'll have the town, and on the other side the animal cell. And in the middle will be our area where we have similarities between the animal cell and our town. Once students have completed the Venn diagram, this too will be saved and sent to them digitally for them to save to their computers. With the digital version of the Venn diagram going to all the students, there will be the supplemental aid of this digital handout. And this is just to help the students see the similarities between their town and the animal cell. You can see the cell membrane is just like the wall, town hall is like the nucleus, the highway is like the cytoplasm, power plant is like the mitochondria, the garbage truck is like the lysosomes, grocery store, vasculars, bakery is like the endoplasmic reticulum, and the delivery truck is like the Golgi bodies. After the students have saved their 2 supplemental aids, they will be then put into breakout rooms. In these breakout rooms, they will be made up of 4 other students. These 4 students are to work together to fill out and label the animal cell diagram that is listed for you on this slide. While the students are working in their group breakout sessions, I will go around to each group and monitor to see their progress and see how they're labeling their animal cell diagram. Once I see that most of the groups have finished labeling their animal cell, I will then end the breakout session. And then once I end the breakout session, I'll have 2 of the groups present on their animal cell diagram that they have labeled. With the other kids or students that have not had a chance to present, they will then check to see if they agree or disagree with the way that the animal cell was labeled. For closure, the students will be given a breakdown page, and this will be sent to them digitally. On this page, it'll be the animal cell with each of its parts labeled, but there will be space next to each of the parts for the students to write their own summary of each part that makes up the animal cell. Students will be able to use their book, the supplemental aids that have been sent to them digitally throughout this lesson, along with the use of other students in the classroom through notes. For homework and practice, students are to teach their parents what they've learned by showing them their breakdown page. While the parents are looking at the breakdown page, the students will summarize each part of the cell and be able to tell the parents in their own words what each part does for the function of the animals. Here are my citations for my presentation, and thank you for your time and attention, and have a great day.